Jayakody.
And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live. My guest this evening is retired Senior DIG Priyantha Jayakody. The question is, why is policing in a muddle in Sri Lanka? Let's find out just ahead of our 75th Independence Day. Very good evening to you, Senior DIG.
Yeah, good evening for us.
Now then, why is policing in Sri Lanka in such a muddle? You know, 74 plus years the British left us alone to be masters of our own fate, captain of our destiny and all that business.
Yes.
Why is this?
I have not 100% agreed with your version about the muddling, but there are some issues happen recent past. The major issue is the political interference to the police. There are unlimited interference now. According to this, what couple of weeks back, there was a police transfers were made. Over 225 officers in charge of the police stations were transferred out.
But the IGP didn't sign the transfer.
Yeah, IGP didn't sign that transfer list.
Why is that? Why
It was signed by the DIG personnel, but at the moment, still now, IG has not explained why he has not signed the transfer list.
Maybe he doesn't like it.
Yeah, according to this available information, because that he is not responsible for that. That's why. Because as an Inspector General of Police, he had his own view, own system to appointing an officer in charge of the police stations. But according to this available information, because of it's not tallying with his views, he has not signed it. This happened in the latter part of 2014, when Mr. Ilankakon was the IGP. Then the regime brought Mr. Mahinda Balasuriya, former IGP, as a secretary to the ministry.
Right.
And Mr. Mahinda Balasuriya trying to do some transfers, but Mr. Ilankakon did not agree for that, and he didn't sign for that particular orders. That happened in year 2000.
And what happened? Did the transfers go ahead?
No, after that the transfers were suspended.
Right.
Yeah,
so
but
what you say?
Only the problem is now, according to this, the current the amendment to the constitution, immediately they should appoint a police commission. If they appointed the police commission, all the transfers and the disciplinary matters will go to the police commission.
So why are the politicians frightened or seem to be frightened of appointing independent police commission?
Yeah, now, but they can't be frightened. What they according to this, otherwise they are violating the constitution. Now this amendment was passed, and they have to immediately appointed the constitutional council, and the constitutional council is responsible for appointing particular commissions, police commission, the election commission, and so forth. Then, but unfortunately, the constitutional council is not appointing correctly. I don't know. People are saying some people are saying that the government is responsible. Some crowd is saying that it's a responsibility of the opposition leader. But so far, so far the Constitutional Council has not appointed. Now within couple of months, within 3 months' time, the post of the Inspector General will be vacant. Because current IGP Mr. C.D. Vikramaratne is due on retirement on the middle of March. Then there is a vacuum for appointing an Inspector General of Police. Then it should be done by the Constitutional Council. I am not sure whether that council will appoint before that.
So really, I go back to my title that Sri Lanka's policing is in a muddle, really. It is in a muddle because you have these things that you said.
Yes, that's right. Because for us, the most important position of the policing in Sri Lanka is the officer rank of the officer in charge of the police station and the officer in charge of the division. I am not saying that other ranks are not vulnerable.
How important is the IGP then?
Yeah, IGP is the top of the police, but when to do this operational policing, the operational work, most important positions are the officer in charge of the police station, and the officer in charge of the division. Now, appointing these correct people, correct positions, people into the correct positions are not happening in this country.
Right.
Because now when you look at this last transfer orders, some senior officers were transferred for small stations.
Right.
Small grading station.
Yeah.
Some very junior officers without experience were transferred as officer in charge of the bigger station. The Kegol SSP, who was sacked, who was charged in courts for the shooting case happened in Kegol, has appointed as a SSP Tangol division. Like that, there are so many irregularities.
Back to my point that policing in Sri Lanka is muddled to a certain extent. I know you don't agree with me, but
yes, I am not because.
But you don't. Can we agree that you agree with me 70%?
No. I should say that
65?
because there are still very good police officers.
Oh, I'm not talking about that. I'm
Yes.
talking about policing. On
Yeah,
the
yeah,
top.
yeah. That's right. That's right. To do the policing, you need good police officers.
Yes, but you also need a
and
good
the,
system.
And the system.
Yeah.
And
Can I just go into this another one, and because I know this will interest you. We had a cricketer called Mahadevan Sivam. Sata, as he was known, and I'm reading from Wikipedia, is one of the greatest batsmen from Sri Lanka, according to Gary Sobers, Sir Garfield Sobers. He called him the greatest batsman ever on earth. And Frank Worrell, Sir Frank Worrell, called him the best batsman he had ever seen. But in 1951, he got engulfed, and he was actually arrested on what we now know is the famous Sata Sivam case. But what do you have to say about that case?
yes, that this case was very popular as the murder by a mortar.
Yeah.
Yes, and especially this was a very big blunder happened at that time.
What was the blunder?
Because according to the investigators, they make the witness as a suspect and make the suspect as the witness. Because usually when you get into a investigation of a crime case, you should get into that with a very broad mind. You should not get prejudice your mind
At the beginning
with certain other issues, especially some people, especially the media and the other gossips. Okay, this issue, because this Mrs. Satasiam was killed in October 9th, 1951. Her body was found at 2:30 p.m. At 5 o'clock, Mr. Satasiam was arrested on suspicion. And most of these the investigators, they were very much strict on their views, saying that Mr. Satasiam, because Mr. Satasiam had a divorce case filed against Mrs. Satasiam, and these papers were handed over the 8th of October. This happened on 9th of October. On this basic, they accused Mr. Satasiam as a suspect.
That was despite the driver, the taxi driver, who's known to the family, is a regular person, who arrived there, and I might get the facts slightly wrong, but let's say 10:35 in the morning.
Yes.
The driver confirms that Mr. Satasivam,
when he left the house, he has seen Mrs. Satasivam waving.
The driver saw
at the same
her husband off.
At the same time, same taxi company, the manager confirmed that the Mrs. Satasivam used to talk to this company very often, but the same day she who reserved the taxi, and he identified Mrs. Satasiam's voice very particularly.
And you see, and so we had this, having read the book, I feel that there was something amiss. And that something, to me, denotes that the police service, even then, wasn't all what it ought to have been. Because we had none other than the Inspector General of Police, the very celebrated Mr. Aluvihara, who travelled from Colombo all the way to Matara to arrest William. Surely he had the head of police in Matara and the radio, he could have done that. But why on earth did the IGP of Sri Lanka, Ceylon, he travelled. I find that very disturbing. It seems to be a departure from established process.
Yes, but for us at the same time during this Haralaksa, the turf club robbery,
Yeah.
then IGP was personally involved in that investigation. And the Kalattav double murder case, then IGP has visited Anuradhapura. On that case, we can't just say that because Mr. Alivihare went to Mahatara to arrest William, but in that case we can't say that it is very uncommon.
This is the problem. Until the arrival of the IGP, William gave a different story, and when he came back to Colombo, he was then the witness,
yes,
instead of the accused.
Yes.
And Mr. Satasivam, who had a cast iron alibi,
yes,
had to fly in Sir Sidney Smith, a professor from London, to come and have a look. And what was the most important point in that case then?
Yeah, the Professor Sidney Smith actually he recast this scene of crime at his laboratory.
Right.
From there onward, he has instigate and he has instruct the local lawyers to check the nail on the wall, and it's a fatal injury. Until Professor Sidney Smith find this fact, no one was found that about this nail issue, because that was a very bad observations and the bad investigation.
But Sir Sidney Smith was able to work out the time of death by looking at the movement of the breakfast items in Mrs. Satasivan's
for this time of deciding the time of death, they are using especially these forensics experts. They use 3 factors. When first is this the decrease of the pattern of decrease of the body temperature. Second, as you said, this stomach contents and the digest pattern of the last meal. And third is the stiffness of the body. And Professor Sidney Smith very particular about this incident, and he has given the time of death should be after 11.
Yes, which was basically in support, basically of what Mr. Satasivam's defense counsel.
Yeah, the Lord Hunt has said once, the time of death is a thing like a hair, and
the breath of a hair.
Breath of a hair, and the depth is human grave. It was that much deep. Yeah. In that case, actually the Professor Sidney Smith has written a book, the Mostly Murders. This particular book, the Satasivam case, was highlighted.
I see. And so finally we had, after 20 months, thank God, I suppose, for the Satasivam defense team, led of course by that person who became very famous thereafter, Dr. Colvin R. De Silva.
And Manori Muttettuagama, that group of lawyers.
Yes. So they're absolutely fine, upstanding people, but the downside is that Dr. Colvin R. De Silva lost his seat in the following election.
Yes.
But Mahadevan Satasivam, probably one of Sri Lanka's greatest cricketers ever, went on to make a record which I don't think has been equalled again, and that is that he captained not 1, not 2, but 3 teams. He captained Ceylon, Singapore, and then Malaysia. Before he went back to, they settled in England and so on, and made another life for himself. But so there you are, DIG, SDIG, but there must be other cases like this as well.
Yeah, because especially when you are getting to the crime investigation, your mind should not get prejudiced with other factors. You can put everything into your mind, but logically you will have to narrow down all these things. But it should done in very logical way, not done without any reasons. Because actually I have seen in so many crime cases, people are, especially the crimes with the public opinion, police is getting more quick to solve the case. Sometimes, to get a pressure off, they used to arrest so many some people who are on suspicion, and media also getting a part and parcel of these issues, and they give the big publicity saying that suspect were arrested on this case, but without any logical evidence.
After the break, we'll come back and I'll ask you another question, more current. Hopefully we'll be able to provide some answers. I'm in conversation with Senior DIG retired Priyantha Jayakody. This is Newsline Live, and it's now time to take a peek at this evening's headline news from that wonderful primetime news team. See you on the other side of the break.
News First, Newsline with Priyantha Jayakody.
Police fired tear gas and water cannon on IUSF protest organized against repression and cost of living. Doctors protest and demand solutions to medicine shortage. Patients severely affected by shortage of medicines. SLFP decides to contest the majority of the local government institutions under the symbol of the hand. Paddy crops across many areas start turning yellow. Dual homicide in Giriulla, STF sergeant among the dead.
News First, Newsline with Priyantha Jayakody.
And a very good evening and welcome back. I'm in conversation with Senior DIG retired Priyantha Jayakody. Wangediying Mini Marua Keseka.
Yes.
That's the one, isn't it? Thank you for your question. 0772 300 305 by SMS or WhatsApp, please. And here's one. Finally, the killer of Mrs. Satasimam was not identified nor arrested, and the case was closed. So, did the ghost kill her?
Yeah, this is the problem for us. When you charge someone for a case, after he acquitted, you can't charge
somebody else. Is this called double jeopardy?
Especially the witness of the case.
Right.
Because normally after completing the investigations only, they file the case in the courts.
Right.
Then on this basis.
Okay. So thank you for that, and thank you for your questions. Can I ask you this question, please? Would you say, because obviously the evidence is very important, you need to preserve the evidence.
Yes.
And the chain of command.
Most important part of the crime investigation is the preserving the scene of crime. Preserving the scene of crime is the major part of the crime investigation.
What about in the late Mr. Shafter's case? We read in the papers that that he was taken away in the same car.
Yes.
Wouldn't that have upset all the evidence?
Yes, basically, because that entire crime scene is inside the car. But that car was moved to the hospital, and by moving this car, the particular physical evidence will lose something. The second is, during this journey from this cemetery to the hospital, and lot of other things will introduce, and this will tamper the scene of crime, and it will give the misleading part of the for investigators. And I should say that you can't say, because when he found Mr. Shaft inside the car, he was live. Then obviously they should have taken him to the hospital in the same car, because it happened inside the cemetery. You can't blame anyone. But anyway, the scene of the preserving the scene of crime is the very important part of the crime investigation.
And of course, that person, whoever it is who saved him, wasn't a police officer or an ambulance man, so he didn't, okay. But can I ask you this? Easter bombing. 255 people died.
Yes.
Where are the charges? Who? When? Where? They didn't all just die, did they?
For us, I should say, actually most of the people forgot about this part of this Easter bombing, because Easter bombing, the Saharans were investigated by DIG Mr. Nalaka de Silva.
Right.
And Nalaka de Silva is the only person who is responsible for arresting Saharan. Actually, he was behind him. No one else.
Right.
But at the meantime, by making a forged complaint, I should say, because still they have not charged anyone. And for a killing of trying to assassinate president and the former Secretary Defence, that means Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa, on these charges they arrested Nalaka Silva, and it given free way Saharan to operate after the arrest of Nalaka. And I have made an open letter to the Secretary.
So has Nalaka been charged?
No, not yet. He has not charged
Only
yet.
been investigated?
Yeah,
And
and he was interdicted, he was remanded. Then after that the Easter bombing happened. Now nothing happened after that, because first someone is investigating into this. My particular point is they must investigate into this episode where this outsider make a complaint with you see the 63 coup against Mrs. Bandaranaike. It was very promptly investigated, and all the people were arrested without their rank and files. Some are the top level people who were arrested and they were charged. But in this case, for assassination, attempting assassinate the president, alleged, and it was no one, Nalaka were arrested and given free way to Saharan to operate.
Do you think there's a link between that?
Definitely, they should inquire into this. They should investigate into this. I have written an open letter to the Secretary Defence without making nonsense. Please investigate into this and actually expose either this the civilian who I forgot his name. He's from the and he should charge for the fake forged complaint, or the Nalaka should charge for this conspiracy.
So either he should be charged or
yeah,
the guy
nothing happened yet.
So, so do you think there's a link between?
Hopefully I think, because first they have to clear this and show to the public that this is what happened. Either this Rohan, someone that some Kumau,
if you're not sure, but let's say.
And he is to make a complaint. When they investigate, they should find whether this fake complaint, it's a forged complaint. Why he make a forged complaint?
Well, I think
such a very serious, serious allegation against the senior police officers and others. Then, if it is not that, the Nalaka should be charged for conspiracy, if it is correct. And there should be two ends, no, either this one or this one. No, so far nothing happened. Now, Gotabaya Rajapaksa became a president of this country. For his attempt of assassination was never investigated. Yes. Why? These are the unanswerable questions in so far.
Well, okay, it's terribly sad, but the fact is that they didn't do any of this, and so nobody, as far as I know, nobody knows who was the mastermind.
Yeah, again the Presidential Commission report was not published yet, and according to that there are
the evidence part of
and there are some suggestions to take action against some people, and so far nothing happened.
Well, shamelessly, the president at the time didn't put it out, and that's if he's the president of everybody in the country, whether they voted for you or not, I think it's incumbent that you should have put it out, Mr. President Gotabaya. You know, that's the bottom line. He didn't do it.
Yeah,
he's hiding something, and it's shameful that these politicians can hide behind these things merely for collateral purposes. Whichever way you look at it, it was and will remain a collateral purpose until they get to the bottom of it. Don't you think?
Yes, they should get into the bottom of the line and they should expose everything. Then only you can see that they are very particular.
How is the most rapid way to stop this problem with the police and the politicians phoning up and trying to politicize the force? Is it the best thing, as a retired officer, would it be best if the IGP and all these senior DIGs and the next rank down, if they stopped answering the phone to politicians?
No, not that. The politicians have their responsibilities to talk on behalf of their voters.
Yeah.
Because they are appointed from these voters. Now, if something happened against their supporters or the voters or the civilian, they should be in a position to talk. It's not that. But the police should be very impartial and they should not act according to these requests.
But why should the governor, for example, why should the governor call the police station and say, look, release that guy, he's got nothing to do with it? The governor is not a police officer.
No.
He's not the part of the investigative
nothing
team.
to do, yes.
So why should the police officer listen to what he's saying?
He should not listen.
He should say, Andukare, whatever you are called, the governor, I'm not going to talk to you about this. This is my job.
Yes.
You do your job.
Yes, that's why, correct. Because my personal view is the independent police commission should be established very quickly, and that police commission itself should be independent, but not a political cloud should not appoint for that commissions. It should be independent commission. It should be very transparently work against towards this policing of the country, because until that you can't have this, you can't get off this what you call this meddling.
Yes, it is very muddling, and meddling causes the muddling, and it appears that Sri Lanka's politicians, especially the ones who are in power at any given time, that they are muddle-headed about this whole business of policing. It is so important, isn't it?
But also don't forget that there are some police officers who are not answering for these illegal orders.
What happened to them? Did they get transferred to kites?
Yes, sometimes they may transfer, sometimes they do a lot of harms, but still they are standing with their views, with their ideas.
Good.
Because yes, that's why.
Good, strong men.
Yeah, there are some. The recent example is the SP Eric Pereira's issue. Now he's a superintendent at Venapur. Yeah, the people should make a voice on behalf of these good police officers. That's not happening in the country. When something happened to the good police officer from the politicians because he's not answering his take off his orders, the public should get on. Public should have their voice against these politicians. Then only the things will be in good order. Because when these things happen, he will get isolated and he will be transferred out. That will be the end of the chapter. And general public should have their voices. They should be the police.
And do you think the police are, by and large, with the public?
Yes, of course. Always, because we are depending on we are paid by the public. No, police officers are paid by the public, and they are responsible for securing the public and securing their interest.
So the police are the public, and the public are the police.
The police, yes.
Senior DIG Priyantha Jayakody, I've much enjoyed talking to you today. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for us.
Thank you. And on that note, it's now time for the Primetime News, done to you by the absolutely wonderful Primetime News team up here on the third floor. Take care, have a great evening ahead of you as much as you can, and as always, God bless you all.